Okay, we're good.
Okay. Nick, can you readmit Landon? Actually, he got booted and it says he's waiting to be let back in. All right.
I'm not seeing that.
Okay, I'll message him. So yeah, go ahead and sign in if you haven't. Nick's gonna keep putting that in chat. Landon, who is from Odyssey Esports, is having a little bit of trouble with his internet. We'll have to blame Garrett at Manchester. So we'll come back to his spot in a second, or we'll do it for him at the end. But hopefully he can get on and explain this to you. So we'll skip last meeting follow-up. The last meeting follow-up is we had a mandatory coaches meeting on August 30th. Hopefully that's not news to any of you, and you were all either in live attendance or you watched the Ed Puzzle afterwards. We do still have that list. If you're not sure if you completed one of those two things, you can take a look, or you can reach out and we can make sure you did. If you scroll down in the agenda, this is always a running agenda document where you can go back and look. All the links and things from the last meeting are below the very long list of attendees. So if you need to follow up with anything that's there, you can find that down a few pages. In terms of new business, like I mentioned, we'll come back to Odyssey Esports and Landon hopefully just a few minutes when he gets in. But a big announcement that we want to make sure that we say is the schedule for Varsity and Academy leagues are changing. So we generated schedules last weekend after the registration deadline. And you should be able to see those currently, but those are not the final schedules. So there were some difficulties that coaches had with getting teams registered for one reason or another. So we actually have, at current count, 90 more teams that we need to add into the schedule that are registering after the registration deadline from last week, which means I'm fairly confident every schedule that is currently generated will change. So what that means is, yes, you can see them now. It's great. You can take a look, but those will probably not be your opponents actually playing matches moving forward. So understand that the goal is to regenerate all of those schedules tomorrow after our redone check-in deadline from that Google form that we put out. So what to do right now, if you don't see matches on League OS for Academy or Varsity divisions, and you can check in the Discord for announcements and videos about how to check all that. If you do not see those matches, you need to fill out the Google form that is linked in the announcement channel, and we will add your teams manually to the registration. That needs to be done tonight by midnight so that tomorrow we can go through and manually add all the teams. Hopefully that all makes sense. If not, let us know. But long story short, if you reached out to coaches already because you're an overachiever and you said, hey, we want to start having conversations about these matches, that's great, but the matches are going to change. So make sure you take a look tomorrow night or Friday so you can see your actual scheduled matches for Varsity and Academy. Nick, Nathan, did I cover that well?
Yes, just be patient and have some grace because we're not sure exactly how this process works as far as redoing everything. So our goal is to get that done tomorrow.
Yes. All right, Landon's back.
Hi, how's it going, everyone? I was having issues with my computer. It kicked me out, and now I'm here on my phone, so sorry about that, but I'm here.
We just told everyone we're going to blame Garrett and just assume it's his fault.
So. Yeah. Blame Garrett, please.
There you go. So I gave you a quick introduction, but maybe just a little bit who you are, where you're at now and what you're doing.
Yeah, so I'm a tournament organizer in Fort Wayne. I work with the Odyssey Esports, and we hosted 3 large Super Smash Bros. Tournaments this year. They all had 100 players, and then our one in July had 190 players, and then we have 2 more on the horizon in October and November that'll have I think we have 100 players signed up for both of them right now. So I'm also a competitor. I've been playing a lot, and I'm at Manchester University right now, so I'm playing for the team. But mainly as a TO, I'm here to work. We're hosting a 1v1 tournament at the state finals for IHSEN on April 27th. So normally most of the stuff is structured in crews like this, but we're kind of going off this into a 1v1 competition where you'll have to the players will have to qualify through online tournaments. We'll have 5 online tournaments set up in League OS. The top 4 players from those tournaments will qualify for this kind of state finals tournament, which will be an independent one-on-one tournament. And there's also a few other tournaments that will also qualify for those events as well. So then also another thing that I was supposed to mention was Spartan Smash this year is November 18th. That'll be an offline high school tournament hosted by Manchester University. It's a free event for all high school students, free lunch, free for spectators. Each player gets a swag bag with free stuff. The only cost for the school is for travel for all the players pretty much. And there's $3,000 in scholarships for the top 8 students, trophies and medals. Last year had almost 200 players. It was an awesome time. I actually got to compete last year. It was great. And I'm excited to see it this year. But yeah, those were the 2 announcements.
Yeah. So just real quick, maybe a broad picture. So the idea again is we know kids like playing 1v1s in Smash. It's just really hard to do online. So we've heard that, and the big idea is to have an Indiana State championship for everybody across the state, broken down into kind of 3 divisions of sorts you can think of. So we're going to have a high school pool, a collegiate pool, and then an open qualifier pool. And we're going to take the top so many, around 8 to 12 from each of those into a big 32-person double elimination tournament in May.
Yep.
So to decide the high schoolers that qualify from that, what we're going to do is we're going to have open qualifying tournaments for high schoolers, 4 of them online. Dates are coming, and in that document, 2 of them that are in Indy, right? That's where those yes tournaments are.
Yep.
And then the Manchester Spartan Smash is one of the other qualifiers. So any high school students that participate in those, if they're in the top, I believe 4 to 6 is what we're looking at for those, will qualify for the IEN 1v1 finals at our state finals in April.
Yep.
And then the top 8 from that will qualify for the big state tournament to be held in May.
Yep.
So any questions about that from any coaches? Kind of get the idea. How do coaches get involved? So we're going to have registrations in League OS. We're going to run our side of things through the League OS platform. So basically what you're going to just do is share this information with your students. They'll be able to register themselves since it's a 1v1. You'll still have access to the page as their coach and all of those things. But it's going to be run on League OS, so you should be pretty familiar with that. We'll make sure that we put announcements and we update the calendar with the specific dates. But the first one is going to be in November. Is that right, Landon? The online qualifier?
Yep. November 24th, I believe, is the day that we had for that one. Yep.
Right.
So the first one won't be until after Spartan Smash. We've got a little ways away, but just to kind of let all the players know what's going on and stuff. So.
Yep. So, and your students could join from school if you want. They could play from home. Most of them are probably going to play from home, but that's completely up to you. We're starting at 5 p.m.
We have check-in at 5:30 and start at 6, but we could also adjust that kind of depending on how coaches want to do it. We also kind of have some flexibility. So I think we set most of the dates on Fridays because we figured that would be a good day. But if we may run one of the days on another day just so it's easier for some other players to qualify through that. So.
Yep. So yeah, that's up to you if you're running them at home or at school. But it will be individual instead of crews, so make sure you have enough switches for everyone who wants to play if you do want to do that at school.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So yeah, Landon's actually in the IEN server as well, so we can make sure we ping him in a Smash channel if you have questions, or you can always ask us. But the big things for now are tell your students so they can start preparing. Consider attending Spartan Smash, which is a great event on its own, but also a qualifier for these 1v1s. And then start talking about when that first tournament comes around, helping get your students registered and what that process looks like. So thanks, Landon. We're really excited about this. So
yeah.
And hopefully your students are excited too. League OS. I missed what date that qualifier was. November 24th, we believe. And it's in the document that's linked in the agenda. And we'll make sure we get more firm announcements and visible announcements out as well.
Mm-hmm.
As far as League of West, there's a video linked in the agenda about how to find matches, contact opponents, enable notifications, all that stuff that I did. You are welcome to take a peek if you need help with those things in particular. What we want to spend some time doing now is how to check in for club matches, what that looks like in the process, and then how tournament titles are going to run. So let's jump into that. I'm going to share my screen so we can take a look specifically at club check-in. And Landon, you're free to hang out and just kind of message people in chat, or obviously you're free to go too, since we know you're a college student.
All right, got you. Thanks, everyone. I'm gonna head out. See ya. Feel free to message me on Discord if you have any questions. My Discord is just scrubbed out, and I'm in the IEN Discord.
So I'm in my coach account in the SSVU club for ISIN. We're going to use this as an example. The check-in process is pretty simple. What you're going to need to do is navigate to whatever game you want to check in for. And then along the top, there's the roster options. When you go to your roster, you'll be able to see that you are indeed part of this team and be able to look at your competition roster along the side. All you have to do is hit the gear button to go to the settings for your roster. And then on the left side, there is an activate team button. To activate your team means you are ready and willing to participate in that week's match. So it's effectively checking in, just like we used in the past. The button's got a little bit different name. But once you hit the activate team button, you are checked in and ready to go. And it will say deactivate. You know you're activated because the button will change and say deactivated. You'll also then be able to come in eventually and see your matches here on this page. But again, all you need to do, we'll start from the beginning, go to your rosters page, find the roster along the left. If you have more than one roster registered, you'll see multiple over here. Hit the gear icon and make sure that the button down here, you click to activate so that it says deactivate. Now, what we will do every week is we will deactivate all teams at 4 p.m. Eastern. So you will need to make sure that you go in sometime between 4 p.m. Eastern and 4:55 to activate your team and check in for that round. If you do not do that, you will not receive a club match for that week, which again, there's no penalty for not playing. So if you don't have students there, if you would rather take the week to practice, whatever that looks like for you, that's fine. Just don't activate your team. But the expectation is if you check in by activating your team, you are ready to play that match that day and you're good to go. We don't want to reschedule club matches. The whole point of club is to play those matches when they are scheduled at the appropriate time. So check in between 4 p.m. and 4:55 Eastern. Matches will be generated at 4:55. It should not take long, so you should be able to see your match page at 5 p.m. Eastern. And that's when we're going to go into this stage. So you check in here on rosters, but when you're ready to see your actual match, you'll enter the stage, which for clubs is all a single stage. You'll go into fall club. And then once we have matches scheduled, you'll be able to see the rounds here. It'll default to probably the round that is currently played or the last one. Then you can go into this drop down and find the new matches for the new rounds. I'll show you specifically what matches look like here in a second for varsity, but it'll be very much the same if you've already seen some of those matches. Does the process for checking in make sense? Any questions on that? If you don't have an activate team button, you only see manage roster. We can take a look at that in particular. It could be you have the wrong permissions. It could be you're not quite registered correctly, or maybe you're pending. But we're going to wrap up here in just a few minutes, and then we can take a look at that. To the schedule part. Yeah, if you want to see the schedule of matches once they're generated, you just enter the club, and they'll be right here on the main page for the club. Let me show you what that looks like where there are actually matches. So all the varsity academy divisions should have matches. So what you need to do is you don't need to worry about checking in for varsity or academy. We'll just go in, and at Snyder, we're AAA, so I'll look at the AAA Overwatch varsity, and we'll be able to see every match here. So the default loading is every single match. If you want to sort by specific rounds, you can do that. So I want to just look at round 1 matches, or if you want to search just for specific teams, you can start typing in your name and it'll show you only your matches here. So that is what the schedule will look like, and this is what it will look like in club, varsity, or academy. They'll all look very, very similar. But going into a match page, you can just click on view on whichever match page you want to go into and look at. Really quick, while we're here, if you notice, sometimes there is a team and not an opponent listed. That is a bye week. So if you ever see a team or a match where you are one team and there is not another team, that's because you've been given a bye based on the number of teams competing. So let's go into our Snyder Varsity Overwatch match. And this is what a match page looks like. You'll notice that you can see all the players. The coaches appear in a drop down below. So if we need to contact another coach, you can do that. This is the match chat where everything will happen. You'll see by default, it defaults to the match, but you can also communicate just with your team directly, or you can communicate with apparently the police icon. I didn't know that we were serving as functional police for this league, but that will message the admins directly where you can see us. But this match chat is where we'll talk. So I know Isaiah is here in chat, so I can just say, hey, Isaiah, and then we can coordinate here when we're going to play this match. In terms of score reporting, this will look a little bit different once we get into things, and I should have had this pulled up on my other screen, but I can do that very quickly. You don't see a score report now because the match is not live, but once that match goes live, then you'll be able to go in and actually report the score, and I can do that in just a second. Is there a sign in for tonight? There is. Can someone drop the link in chat again? So now this match is in progress. I can go in here and I can enter results. And you do not have to enter all of the statistics here. So the eventual plan is we will have API access for all of these games, and it will pull over all the stats. If you really want to go into scoreboards and start copying things, great. But all we really need you to do is report the overall score here. So if Isaiah beat us, he could put in that they won 3-1, or I could put in either one. We can give them the game win for that, and then we can go into game 2 and report, and game 3. For some of these, if it doesn't have a match score that really makes sense, right? Like we're playing control, so we can go 2-0 or whatever. If we're doing push, we can just do a game win and a game win, and then it'll show you at the top. You can make sure that you verify everything. There is a verify button on the right side that we can hit to make sure that everyone is in agreement, and then the match will be recorded. So that's what you can do here. We'll put that back to checking in, and Isaiah, worst case scenario, we'll have to go back and clear out scores when we actually play this, but I think we can remember. So that is a quick example of how to not only find your matches, but to make sure that you know how to report scores and the like. Any questions on that?
It's not a question, but it's more so a comment. When you're on your matches there, you can, where it says search matches, you can just type in the name of your school and you will see the whole entire thing all at once. So that makes it a lot easier to figuring out the matches for the whole fall split.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So that's check-in and that's reporting scores. For tournament titles, we have to differentiate just a little bit. For Tetris, you're going to check in much the same way that we just talked about for clubs, with the difference being Tetris is an individual title. So your individual students will be the ones checking in. You will not check in your whole roster. So make sure your students understand if they want to play Tetris that week, they have to go into League OS and check themselves in. We'll also do the same thing as the other team titles for club, where we clear the check-ins at 4 o'clock. We'll open it up at 4, and then the check-ins will be up until 4:55. So if your students aren't getting Tetris matches, make sure they understand they need to check in order to be generated. That process is still being finalized, but it will work in very much the same way that the club team matches do. Chess, Fortnite, and iRacing are a little bit different. Chess is being handled pretty much entirely on chess.com. It saves us a lot of trouble of generating a separate bracket. What we'll usually go S for is tracking overall scores eventually We're still working on integrating that, but we should have API access for chess.com as well. We'll be able to bring over all that information automatically. Fortnite, as we experienced tonight, is challenging at times. But the way Fortnite will work is the lobby code will be posted in the League OS chat and Discord as well. And your students will be able to join straight with the lobby code. We are evaluating the check-in system and to see if we're going to use check-in for Fortnite. At the moment, we're going to say no, but we might in terms of tracking how many students want to play. The issue with number of players for Fortnite is we have a single account to create a single lobby, which means we're capped at 100 students, and we're up to, I believe, 46 teams worth of students. So we're going to have to start probably a little aggressive on limiting the number of players per team, but then that can grow as we see which teams are going to actively compete and with how many players. So the current plan is 3 players per team. We'll have to reevaluate that as we keep going, but that is the current plan. And iRacing as well is fairly separate from and divorced from League OS. Most of iRacing will take place on the simulation itself in terms of the leaderboard tracking and standings and setting up races. The League OS page can be used for some communication, can be used for some tracking, but almost entirely going to take place on the platform itself. Any questions about check-in for club or tournament titles or how those will work?
Joe, there were 2 questions in chat.
So none of my teams match what is on the rosters. Are you talking about like the players on that roster, Jonathan? Yes. Oh, different Jonathan, but yes. Rosters will sync. So if you have the teams correct on your school, then they will sync over to the competition roster. We are kind of doing that in bunches. So if they don't currently match, they will once we get them all synced together. The biggest thing you need to do is you need to make sure that your team rosters are correct, the ones for your school. I'm doing club teams, but I don't have the rosters tab. You probably do not have the correct permission for your school. We could take a look at that, Vince, when we wrap up the broad meeting and get into more individual help. There's a way that all the titles to be in alphabetical order in League OS. You can search the competitions in League OS as well, I believe. I don't think I'm making that up. Yeah, so you can search. They are organized alphabetically based on like title. So you've got your academies at the beginning, and then chess, and then your clubs. So they are alphabetical, just not by game title. So searching at the top is helpful. One more thing about tournament titles. We did ask that your students change their league tag to be their game name for tournament titles. That is the best way for us to currently do this. Another thing League OS is working on is having a profile field for your student to be able to type in their connection to their game. Again, eventually API access, but we're kind of rolling in steps of what we have access to. So for now, the best thing is to have their league tag set as their in-game name. When we get access to those additional profile fields for them to be able to make specific connections, we will use that. But it's important for tracking scores that we know what the students' in-game names are tied to their League OS name. So that is the reason behind that. Also important that they don't change their account name during the middle of the season or just change accounts they're playing from. I mean, they're welcome to do that if they don't want to compete anymore or get their scores tracked. But for tracking scores, we really do need that to stay the same. When do we need to finish roster adjustments? Ideally, by Friday of this week, your rosters are done. Worst case scenario, before you play your first match for that game, your rosters for your team need to be set. A few more quick things. We're almost done. There's a Spin College Fair coming up. So hopefully you've seen a few announcements about this in the newsletter and some other places. I do not have those dates in front of me, but I believe they are October 10th and 18th or 11th and 17th. I think 11th and 17th, actually. The Wednesday and the following Tuesday. The plan there is all of us to be part of a virtual college fair with our students, parents, whoever else needs to be a part. where our partner Stay Plugged In has numerous colleges present virtually to be able to participate in town halls and individual sorts of conversations about esports opportunities at their institution and what it would look like for your students to be a part of them. So make sure those dates are on your calendar. They are during our break weeks, and a lot of us at the high school level especially already do some collegiate stuff those 2 weeks anyway. Great chance for your students to get in front of a lot of different college representatives and have some opportunities. So more specific details coming soon, but just remember those dates and we'll get you information about how to have your kids sign up. The easiest thing to do now is to have them create a Stay Plugged In account. That's free. And that's a great way of getting recruited to college. If they do want to pay for an account, there's a paid account option that's something like $5 a month. And if they choose that they were referred by IEN, we get a small percentage of that. So if your students are paying for that platform, let us know and we can help you get signed in so we can get a little bit of benefit there. But again, more information coming. Last thing, content competitions. So this is something kind of new that we did. It's stemming from our internship program last year that some of you were involved in. But the kind of broad strokes idea is we want to generate more content both for IEN as a whole organization and for your schools. But we don't have a lot of bandwidth as an organization to do some of those things. So the plan is you as your school teams can compete in monthly-ish conversations and competitions where we'll give you a prompt and you generate content for that prompt. So it might be something like an overlay for a match of the week for IEN. It might be a roster graphic for your schools. It might be some social media engagement like polls and images and graphics, like an advertising campaign. We're developing more ideas, but the plan is to get your students some real life skills that aren't directly playing games, but still related to the esports side of competitions and marketing. So, what we're looking for is a volunteer leadership team of coaches like yourselves to help organize that activity. Carlos from Michigan City has agreed to kind of be the lead of that. And we actually have a board intern, Michael, who I don't think is in the meeting today. Oh, he is. You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sorry, had to activate the microphone. Hey, everybody, Michael here. Just board intern, got onboarded. I think it was back in May,
Something like that.
June. Yeah, right there in the late spring. No, excited to be part of the organization and hope to help the best that I can.
Yeah. So Michael and Carlos are going to kind of head that up, but are looking for help. So if you are interested in volunteering, you can drop in chat, and they can kind of develop a list. You can also just put in Discord, probably in general is a good place for it for now, that you're interested in being part of that leadership team, which would involve coming up with these competitions, helping to judge them as well. Shouldn't be too much of a time commitment. And we're looking for having, like I said, a few of these each semester. So probably based on where we're at, maybe 2 yet in fall and then 2 or 3 in spring. Hopefully that's clear enough. We are developing pricing for these as well. So we've had some conversations with some corporations who are very interested in providing pricing for these sorts of things, both to help your students and to get their name out there. Um, in particular, I had some conversations with peripherals manufacturers. So we're looking at things like monitors, keyboards, mice, other peripherals for your students that will win these competitions. So yeah, if you're interested, Carlos and Michael will definitely need the help and are looking forward to that. Other than that, Nick, Nathan, did I miss anything?
I don't think so. Just I was going to add on to that. I mean, this is a great way for you as a coach to kind of give back to IEN as an organization. The more media that there is out there about us as an organization, the bigger we can be, the more we can grow. And so this is kind of like a low commitment way of you helping out the organization.
Yeah. Anything else for the good of everyone? Oh, are these competitions for roster players only? No. Nope. As long as you're like involved in sponsoring them, you can involve other students, and it'd be a great way to do that. Say, hey, we have this specific competition where we're doing, X graphic design or whatever, and then that student might then stay on afterwards and help your program in graphic design for your program. It could be a good way to onboard some of the students. Digital design class. Yeah, I mean, we would want you involved with them. We don't want you to just offload this to another teacher in your building. But as long as you are involved with those students and helping like set the trajectory for that, I think you can involve other students from your school. Anything else from coaches? We can get into specific things, but broad questions that apply to everyone. All right. Nathan, I feel like you can go ahead and stop the recording.
We'll go ahead.